recording?
Yes.
We're on?
Yes.
Welcome.
Welcome, everybody.
It's our very first show taping in the morning versus in the evening. It is a Sunday morning in Northern California. It's also Sunday morning in Southern California. But it's at the end of the morning, which it's 11 o'clock a.m., to which it's dawn in Ryan's world. So Ryan started with,
even though I've been up
his
like 7, I got up at like 7:30,
Newsflash, I've already taped a show for a different project that I'm working on. 8 o'clock, zip zop zoop. 8 o'clock, done by 9:15. And I've just been twiddling my thumbs, waiting for Ryan to wake up.
Yeah, I had to finish my coffee.
He's got his hat hair today.
Eat a couple times. I was getting ready, like 10:30, and I was like, oh man, I'm hungry. So had to, because I ate way earlier. It just takes me a while to get going on the weekends.
That's wild because
I'm not a morning person. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, normally I'm very, very quiet in the mornings.
Well, I used to, when I was very, very young, I could sleep all day. I mean, we're talking teenage years. But then when I got part of the working hour, but I can't turn it off. So if I get up between 5:30 and 6 and get going in the morning, on Saturday and Sunday, it's like I could sleep in, but I'm not sleeping until noon. So, yeah. Just weird. Nowadays, but I don't go to bed at 2 a.m. anymore. That used to be teenage years. Go to bed 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, sleep till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But I don't stay up that late.
Me neither.
You just require a lot of sleep. So what episode are we on? 17, 18?
Sure. Okay. So much that I've 18 maybe.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, newsflash, I downloaded OBS.
Okay. Look at you.
And look at me. I downloaded OBS and
I'll let you start doing these.
Right? And I connected a second screen. So now I can be fancy like Ryan. Have 2 screens.
You connected a second screen. What do you mean?
Instead of just having my laptop screen, that's what I look into. I have a second screen attached so I can do fancy stuff.
I don't exactly know what you're talking about.
It's okay. Oh, like a computer screen? Just a standalone computer screen, right?
Yeah.
You know what that is?
I guess.
Just
the window.
How many screens are you using for the show?
I have 2. I have my laptop screen, and then I have a separate monitor.
That's what I mean, monitor. So I should have said monitor. So I was able to successfully hook up a monitor.
Okay, so now you have 2. Okay, yeah, the screen kind of threw me off. Okay, so you have a second monitor now?
So now, yes.
Okay.
That's pretty fancy, right?
Yeah, it is. You're now you have room to do stuff. You can
now I have room to do stuff and
keep your I keep OBS on one screen, and then I have Zoom, and I can bring up the internet on my other one. So
I'm learning how to do that and taking a class in editing. So as I'm working on other projects and filming or recording, so I'm learning. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens. Going into a whole new world. But the success was OBS, still working some kinks out. But
yeah,
it's
got some weird glitchy stuff. Like I try to run music clips, and every time I would go to do that while I was recording, they would glitch out. And so that's kind of why I put like our intro and outro in like separately, is because, and don't do it live on OBS is because it always glitches out
Huh. Well, I
for
haven't
some
got,
reason.
yeah.
So, and I've got
At
a
the
pretty
very
fast
beginning,
computer
yeah,
too. So it
yeah.
shouldn't be the speed or anything like that. I mean, it might be internet pool. I don't know, but yes, there are some glitches. There's some glitches that I'm still working out.
Well,
Like,
at the very beginning stages, so I haven't even gotten to glitches in my training,
right.
but I'm excited because I'm on a trajectory of just saying I need to learn this stuff, so I'm learning it, and that's interesting. And we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But so baby steps, but getting there, and then being able to, um, yeah, just being able to create, and then the editing is going to be nice. Some fancy stuff you can do with editing, just so it's a nice finished product
It's gotten a
for
lot
some things.
easier.
It
The
has, so
with
it's still
the
beautiful.
programs, like
Mm-hmm.
from back
Right.
when I first learned how to do it. Now
Mm-hmm.
it's
It does a lot for you.
yeah, it does a lot for you, and like it's crazy some of the plugins that Adobe has
Yeah,
that
Adobe
just
Premiere Pro's got the one. It's I'll just say it's the text search where you put the text in next to your video, and then you can highlight what you want in, and then just go, okay, I don't want that section in, and then so it transitions for you. So to say I like A, B, and C, and then you skip out E, F, G, H, Y, whatever it is, then you go, but what I really like is M. So you can cut out all that stuff. I mean, there's just some really amazing things, especially for when you're taping something and you're talking to the camera and you want to get all your points in, and then you look back at it to go, oh, I didn't do that in the order I wanted to. That comes in handy.
yeah.
So anyway, so it's been a journey. We'll announce it soon of different projects that I'm working on once we start getting in and promoting it. But it's really fun to get started, and then just learning the process, because that's just part of the journey as well.
Yep.
Okay. So is this going to be where you don't talk because it's not noon yet?
Oh no, I don't know.
What do you want to talk about, Ryan?
No, I mean you just took over the the whole conversation, so there wasn't much for me to say. Oh, I couldn't. I mean, yeah. There's it's yeah. Say that last part. Sorry.
What would you like to talk about today, Ryan? Besides me learning how to use Adobe Premiere.
No, it's the technical stuff. Yeah, I've gone through it. It's and when you're learning, like the hard part sometimes is finding the right videos, because one of the things, like, because at the level of operation that I know of some of these things, like there's a lot of information I don't need, and so just fishing through all of that information to get to the parts that apply to me. Yeah, because I kind of transitioned like what I know about OBS from Twitch streamers playing video games and DJs. And so I'm like, well, it's kind of what I want to do. And so yeah, that's kind of how I figured out that. But some of the issues I have with is more like operationally, where I don't know. I just don't like how some things do. StreamYard seems interesting. I would like to try that, but I don't like that their logo's on it.
Unless you pay for it.
Right. And which is why Zoom and OBS, why that combo is kind of cool. You know, because if you're only dealing with one person, then you don't have to pay for Zoom Pro. Combine that with OBS, and then you can, throw up some decent looking productions. Combine that with.
Yeah, I will say though that definitely, I would even say in the last 5 years, what's really amazing about a lot of the software out there, it just can take you from beyond novice, pre-novice to going, oh, I can actually do this.
Yeah, and if you
And
kind
yeah,
of know what you're doing, combined with some other skills, it can you can trick people into thinking it's kind of professional, which
well, because
you know,
and that's one of the main reasons I'm learning it, because the idea I have kind of for the whole concept in my head is editing something to go, oh, is that concept, can I see that, can I hear it, because I so yeah, so because there's a lot of, some part of it's
yeah,
talking and then some, so you don't know, but just kind of having that control to go, I didn't like that so much, I can make that better. And then instead of trying to articulate that to an editor, say what I really meant was this, instead of, so that's kind of why I wanted to learn and play. Jenny Fox, one of our number one fans, who admittedly said she hasn't been watching the show very much after I told her that your mom had bought some of our merch. So she said she's going to get back on that. But she and I were doing some tapings. I said, do a bunch of stuff and I'm going to play with it, for the editing, see how I can just, so yes, it's an interesting time, labor intensive, but everything I learn, it's going to take me less time the next
yeah.
time,
And some of
and just,
the like with editing, one of the key things is like motion, like where you
mm-hmm,
cut to make it
right.
not one angle to another angle to make it not seem abrasive, or which is actually
Mm-hmm,
kind of tricky. Because if you do something like a millisecond too soon or a millisecond too late, combined with
mm-hmm,
the next one, which even with all the amazing things with editing, like if you don't really like have that eye, I mean, yeah, you can cover it up with cross dissolves and stuff like that, but I don't know. I think you only need those for that's like music video, like
and right
artistic
now, just,
type
we
stuff.
taped it, right, we started
Um,
it, we were, like
So I
five
would
minutes,
say,
yeah,
meaning like it's good to practice those things because like training
yeah,
your eye to see where the motion, like it takes a bit of it takes a bit of work, trial and error, putting pieces together and
great.
seeing what you
And
like. I mean,
And
yeah,
this is, yeah, for us right now, it's a podcast. So it's not like a production of a movie. And a lot of it's going to be, like I kind of self corrected during taping. And I just waited 5 seconds, went, okay, that's going to be an editing moment because I don't want that in there. But, just but yes, so that's what we're doing is just trying to create, record a lot of content to be for me to utilize to say, can I make this look like it is my brain? So I'm excited to learn. So that'll be good.
yeah, yeah. No, I get that. I am kind of doing the same thing because like I'm trying to sell stuff and I
Right.
need to like to be honest, like I kind of hate being a talking head.
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes me kind of feel like I did when I did radio back in college,
Mm-hmm.
where like it's easier like this where there's another person, but
Right.
like because I know in order for me to convince people that they should watch my cartoons and subscribe, like I got to do some talking head bullshit and get
Mm-hmm.
over it. But it reminds me of being a DJ in college, like when you're just in that booth by yourself,
Mm-hmm.
prattling on in between something, and you're like, it, yeah, you're like, yeah, there's probably somebody listening, but it's tough. I respect the people that can do that day after day, like
Mm-hmm.
why it is like kind of exhausting
Yeah.
to do
Good
that because
opportunity. Right.
I'm
Good
more
opportunity.
I I like the artistic process, so I don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily so being in front of people, like I've always associated with it just being a performance. And
Mm-hmm.
so until you go to do the performance, you go back and do you, but having to have the personality to where you can be on and chipper and performing, it's very respectable. And speaking of learning, I'm trying to learn how to at least pretend to be comfortable or happy with that. You know.
Yeah, well, the what's interesting is I too, it is easier to do it with someone because you get that instant feedback.
Yeah.
And so the like the way,
Whereas if you're
yeah,
by yourself, like
you
just
don't know
talking
until somebody makes
away,
a comment, right?
yeah,
Right.
like it. You know, like the actually one of the current news stories. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a video on it. The like Steve the Ditko estate, like Steve Ditko, the creator of Spider-Man. Like the co-creator was Stan Lee, but Stan Lee really
Mm-hmm.
just came up with the name Spider-Man and told him to draw. Anyway, so the Ditko estate is actually suing Disney to cease all usage of of Spider-Man in
Wow.
Marvel comics and stuff like that. And I'm for it, man. I, yeah, I haven't really liked what they've done to Spider-Man in the movies or the comics since the late '90s. The
Mm. Well, they've been pretty popular in the last 10 years.
and it kind of explains why they've sort of in recent years created different versions of Spider-Man. Like the Miles Morales Spider-Man, Spider-Gwen, why so many costume changes,
Mm.
you know, because that's part of it too. And so
Interesting.
it's yeah, because he's filing for Amazing Fantasy whatever issue number that
Mm.
was the first issue of Spider-Man. And so it's not Steve Ditko because he's passed on,
Right, right, right.
but
It's a
it's his
state.
son, I think, or whoever's in charge of the Ditko estates. So yeah, Spider-Man and Doctor Strange. So
Is it because they don't like the direction it's going?
it's because well, I think it. I mean, it's money. Like it's Spider-Man's like $1 billion franchise, and like you know, Marvel notoriously has ripped off its creators since the beginning. You know, by getting everybody to create all these characters, and because they're all work for hire, it means that they
That goes all the way back, right? Yeah.
yeah, and so it like yeah no it's just been super interesting.
Yeah, it's a really good point because you look at
I don't
um
like what they've done with Spider-Man, so I hope they like the way Peter Parker is portrayed in the Marvel movies is the reason I don't like as soon as he came in I'm just like who is this? This isn't Spider-Man. It just kind of ruined all the rest of the Marvel movies for me
mhm.
because I know that yeah, I just don't like nothing against Tom Holland. He's a fine Peter Parker, I guess, but just how it's written and like it is not Spider-Man to me. And so
It's
um
interesting though, because in the old days, like with cartoons such as the Looney Tunes,
yeah,
right? The
the
I mean that the one, you think
there's
about,
some interesting copyright things with the Looney Tunes.
well,
Um
yeah, because that was Warner Brothers, that is Warner Brothers,
mhm.
but Mel Blanc, who voiced all the characters, there's a in the they don't have it anymore, but years ago, malls would have the Warner Brother store, like a Warner store. And I remember going into it. And then after Mel Blanc died, there was a very expensive sell. Like there's only like, I don't know, 2,000 made of all the characters in one corner and then just the microphone. And it was titled Speechless because, in honor of Mel Blanc.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have a actual, like, it's not an encyclopedia of Warner Brothers and Looney Tunes, but it's something like that. It's like almost like a coffee table book, like the history of it, and you see all these work for hire cartoonists,
Mhm.
and they make it look like they're just having the time of their lives because that's what it makes you feel like. You're thinking, what a great job to have, right? Writing all this
Well,
funny stuff because
everybody
for
that can
those,
draw like loves shit like that. And
Right.
so in a way they are kind of having the time of their lives, but also in another
Right.
way it's these companies just exploiting
And but
people
you think about it,
with
right?
big hearts
Right.
and imaginations, and like,
But who,
cuz
right? Because I mean, that's one thing is that at that time, like I'm just, I don't
yeah.
know enough about the estate of for is it Ditko, you said
Mhm.
Steve Ditko. So, but I think that at that time that everybody's like, I'm just happy to work in Hollywood, right? I'm just happy to have a job and I'm an animator and I get to write kind of subversive, funny things because it was Looney Tunes and Bugs Bunny. And
Yeah.
who
I
could foresee,
Bugs Bunny's such an asshole.
who
I'm not.
could foresee,
Just once, I'd like to one of the other characters like knock his teeth in. I think that
but
would be great.
well, the thing is that right. So the
Foghorn
Bugs Bunny is,
Leghorn, smack him across the. I say.
but yeah, so the because Bugs Bunny was the antagonist and the hero at the same time.
Yeah,
Because right, so because he could always get out of
yeah. I
scrapes
guess
and
you
do
are
Daffy
supposed to
Duck.
kind of dislike him a little.
Right. And you go because the and then him up against, I mean, I always loved his interaction with Yosemite Sam because some of those because Yosemite Sam was just
Right.
goofball tarnation and he was on one track.
They,
And so
I think
just
they
yeah.
gave him his guns back. They took away his guns for a while, but I think gave him his guns back.
But you think about it, so here's the 1940s, 50s when in its heyday, but again, just because in terms of scope, like my dad would say in the 40s, they would go, everything was at the movies. They didn't have TV. So
Right.
you go see these comic reels, and you'd go to those theaters and you just sit there all day and they would just play these little shorts and news and that was a big deal. My mom would say the same thing.
Like in
Um,
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
right,
Like
right.
when they were going in the. Oh man, have you heard about the news for that?
Mm-mm.
With the they some people they decided to change the Who Framed Roger Rabbit ride at one of the Disney parks.
Oh, okay.
Because they thought that because Jessica Rabbit was being put in the trunk by the
Mm-hmm.
weasels,
Mm-hmm.
like she was in the movie. But no, actually no. Anyway, I don't know. Anyway,
Right.
the whole thing's weird, and so they decided to remove her from it and put her back in. And they gave her like a trench coat and a hat because they wanted to cover her up because she was dressed too like lewdly.
Provocatively.
Yeah, yeah. So now she's now got like a trench coat and a fedora because she's supposed to be a detective. And
Some point
it's
we can't, I know at some point you just go, it's
yeah,
cartoon.
yeah,
It's
yeah. At some
animation.
point, you got to be like, go outside.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Like,
she wasn't real. It's a
yeah,
cartoon.
that was
And
and
yeah.
that was the point. Like, she was, that was her
She
joke.
was
Like,
she was a
I'm
rabbit.
not bad. I'm just drawn like this. And she
Right,
was like the smartest person in the whole movie, basically.
right, right. And that
And yeah, so at some point you have to just be like, it's a cartoon. Like,
it's a cartoon.
like
And right, so,
relax a
right.
little
So
bit.
every single thing doesn't have to, oh, and I was talking about
Oh
this
man,
morning
Christopher
when
Lloyd as Doom. That's such a good. Who Framed Roger Rabbit's the first movie I saw in the theater. Um, and so like as a little kid, see like that was just like
well, and seeing it and then
like
right to have the combination of the two live and
right.
animation done really well.
And because that was my first theater experience. Like
The
there was
thing.
something about there's something magical about the theater releases back in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
um there was just something anyway. Yeah, so Such a good movie though. Like even watching it going back and watching it as an adult and being like, ah,
Mhm.
damn, this is a really good movie. Like on an acting level, like the
Right.
performances that are
Because
given.
and at that time, when all that was available was they were doing it for these movie theaters, these shorts, cartoon, shorts, whether it's Steamboat Willie from Disney, Looney Tunes coming behind, Hanna-Barbera coming, but they were part of it. And so you would only get to see it in that venue. Then we have TV, and I don't know all the dates of when we started seeing cartoons. I feel that was
I think it
more
was in the 70s sometime
70s, right? Right.
because I feel like, yeah, Hanna-Barbera and Looney
Mm-hmm.
Tunes kind of got the ball
Right.
rolling with their,
Like Saturday morning cartoons was, I would say, for me, more high 70s, 80s. But it all depends too.
mhm.
Um,
Oh,
just
I
the timing
mean,
of it, right?
it was
Because this
huge
is pre,
for me. I was
yeah.
born in 81, so I had, He-Man, the Ghostbusters cartoon.
But then we didn't have TV 24/7, right? I mean, we didn't have
Uh,
so like we didn't have the Cartoon Network, and I
oh yeah,
but I
yeah.
also came from a place where we weren't it wasn't that we weren't allowed, we were just kicked out of the house all the time. I mean, it was just like you go out and play, go out and play, go out and play. And
Right.
then TV really was reserved for the evenings or Saturday mornings. And a big treat was if you could eat breakfast sitting in front of the TV, and then you got up and do your chores, and then you went outside to leave my mother alone. But right, so you get your key. But I just remember the key shows. Like I remember loving Bugs Bunny, and then as an adult, liking it even more. Um, but I just think about during that time, and at no one in the world 80 years ago could have foreseen the scope of how big cartoons could get.
Mhm.
Cartoons being made into movies, right? Action movies, because nobody even
Oh
thought of the
yeah,
idea of
they killed Optimus Prime off in the
right. But they're no
Transformers
right.
movie.
So kind of like the whole Star Wars, the CGI just changed the whole the ability to say now we can just superimpose these characters and make it look real, like the Hulk and everything was CGI.
It
So who could foresee
yeah.
that 80 years ago that no
The
one even would be coming up with, I'm sorry to keep talking over you, but who would be coming up with that in 100 years from now? People are going to be watching movies on a phone, and
yeah.
watching any type of movie they want, and on 800 streaming platforms.
I
And
still
those
think they
streaming,
have a
yeah.
way to go with the fight scenes. Like that's actually one of the things that
Mm-hmm.
bothers me the most about the Marvel movies is the CG fight scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it, yeah, I just don't. I'm just like make a cartoon. Just just
Yeah.
make a cartoon. If this is what you're gonna do,
Mm-hmm.
like make a cartoon. I'm more impressed with stuntmen and actual fight scenes. I mean, there's a cool way to combine both of it, but
They're not going to do that very much anymore, I'm sure, in
no,
movies.
no,
Mm-mm.
because they'll just do the computer stuff,
Yeah.
which is one of the reasons why I actually, even though they're kind of bad, but like I kind of like the CW superhero shows.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Like because even though yeah they are limited, like I like actually watching the stunt people do stuff, you know, and so like I mean like the Flash has a lot more CG, but I mean like the fight choreography for like Arrow is
Mm,
great. You know,
yeah.
Superman and Lois, that one was great. Uh, like
Yeah.
actually the fight choreography for Stargirl is pretty good too.
Is that all CW?
Yeah, yeah, those are all CW shows. So that's I would rather watch that than CG.
Right. Orama.
You know, Thor and Spider-Man punching each other.
See, that's what I wonder is what's going to be next is remove people altogether and then it just
Oh yeah,
become the most realistic.
with
I know
the
because I saw an
because they
interview
have the
of, yeah.
de-aging process. Like Harrison
Mhm.
Ford's basically not in the new Indiana Jones movie. Like,
Really.
yeah, he got injured early on, and they just
Mhm.
continued with the double, and they're gonna superimpose his face on later.
Yeah. Well, I know that that's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
But what's interesting, yeah, that I saw uh, or listened to a podcast about CGI and how the future is that a lot of actors, actresses better look at the fine print on their contracts
Mm.
because, and I don't know, their likeness, yeah, do something about really lock in their likeness because
Yeah, because
you
they'll
know,
with the deep fake technology and
right, right
with
to
the way that's
say,
going.
right, especially popular um, people that a computer could generate every expression, like a movie star who's been in a million movies, then could generate every expression and then just recreate it. The
Oh
computer
yeah,
could recreate it,
it's
just put lines in, just like doing the
well
editing. Yeah.
I mean they brought in Mark Hamill and made him look young for the. I didn't watch The Mandalorian, but like I've seen the
Hmm.
clips.
Right.
So that's yeah. I mean, I like because I did a lot of background out here,
Hmm.
and no, there's a 3D model of me for I think Greatest Showman, that musical.
Hmm.
Yeah, they had all of us line up in this 3D photo area, and we
Hmm.
had to like stand in certain positions, and they took pictures 360 like full pictures of us, so that way they could fill more of us in later for like
Right.
crowd scenes and
Hmm.
stuff like that. Uh, so
Yeah, because when it comes down, because that was the whole idea behind the make sure you have a likeness, because now, right. And then just think of the technology now, how often we are videotaped out and about, we're recorded. And then could somebody, it's like, I'm not saying that, well, I guess if I go to a public place and I'm recorded, I don't own my likeness anymore. Somebody could take that, right? And say, oh, put her as part of a crowd, unless I was a famous person. Because just think
I
about,
don't
it's
know.
like,
Yeah,
because
I think
once
there are
years, yeah.
some there are still some laws against being recorded.
Oh, that you have to sign off on. I'm not
Yeah,
saying
like
being recorded, but just say for background, just years ago, about 10 years ago, I was in Seattle and I was waiting for a meeting and I was outside, um, just waiting for the meeting. It was nice outside. And someone came up and said, oh, I'm a reporter with our local PBS. Do you mind answering some questions about this, this, and this? I'm like, oh yeah, sure, whatever. And I do it. And they said, oh, if you want, we'll send you an email when it airs. It was just a little teeny tiny local thing.
yeah,
But um, is that what I remember? It's like, so, I mean, it was asked three questions. It was just a moment in time. But all the people around us who were sitting around, they were being videotaped. They didn't ask my permission. I mean, they didn't have me sign anything. And it was pretty, benign. But that's what I think is that so, but they can show people. What if somebody was sitting on the bench at the end of the bench? You could see that person sitting there. That's what I mean. Is like there's pictures of everybody. Or what if somebody
yeah.
scraped Facebook and got everybody's, that weird thing where if you send a picture, somebody can tag it and say, "Oh, I know that person from 20 years ago." Anyway, it is weird, like you said, with a
Yeah.
deep fake. Is that are we going to know? Because I've seen some memes that look like, oh my gosh, it looks, you can have somebody saying the wrong thing, or just like the editing
Yeah, you can
little class. It's like all of a sudden to
you can
say, I
clip
want to cut
things.
out this whole part, right? And I want to make it look like seamlessly that it's
Yeah.
all part of the same conversation. Easily can be
The
done.
and I love bad edits. I
Uh-huh.
mean, like the Space Coast, Coast to Coast. Did you ever watch that on Adult Swim?
Mm-mm.
Speaking of
Mm-mm.
cartoons, yeah, where Space Ghost. The whole point of the show is Space Ghost was a talk show host, and like
Mm-hmm.
Brack and Zorak, like his old enemies,
Mm-hmm.
uh, were forced to work on, the show.
Mm-hmm.
And and so he would interview, have celebrity interviews, and half the time the questions wouldn't have anything to do with the answer. Like, so they would just interview the celebrity, and then they would chop it up to make these like really bad edits. Oh man, it's great. So
Yes, bad editing, or I noticed sometimes too, where you can see it. Like I'll watch a YouTube video that somebody has created, and I'm thinking, are they purposely trying to make those big clips? Because usually things,
yeah.
they
There's
shouldn't
some
jump.
funny Joe Rogan ones too,
Are there?
where
Yeah.
they're like Joe Rogan falls in love with Tom Segura, and like they like that's not
Splice it
necessarily
all
one
together.
yeah, they like splice it together and make it
Yeah.
look it's pretty funny.
I remember we in school we had film class, and I was 10, and we were learning how to do animation. Well, and pretty much our responsibilities was filling in. So you've got all this clear film, and we were filling in with felt
Jeez, what
pens,
kind of school did you go to where you were learning to animate?
right?
That's a nice school.
Public school.
Wow.
So, but and then not only that, then we learned how to make our own little box cameras.
Class.
We learned how to process our own film, develop our own film. So we built a dark room, and anyway, it was a fun year. But then learning how, and then purposely, because the lesson was, and then we'd film it. So you'd learn the labor of each and every cell, how quickly it goes. And then to do 30 seconds, how much film that would take, real film, of course, because in the old days they're digital. But then painstakingly, each cell means something. And then throughout the year, you'd learn about splicing and saying, how to make it look completely different. And it's all raw because we're dealing with what we, the things that we created. But it was a great lesson. So, but learning, and just at 10 years old, learning about that editing process of splicing, and then you're splicing for an easy transition versus, and then had to do with how many cells were in between, because all those cells very quickly are making up the picture.
Yeah, that's how I did
mentally. Yeah.
The Mad Pigeon cartoon was because I didn't have any editing software. I didn't do I didn't have the clear cells. I wish I would have, but I was even cheaper than that. I just did everything out on paper and and framed it. And so I did the storyboard, and I'm like, okay, he moves from here to here. These are where the motions are. And so having to, and then picking stuff that I could repeat later.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, okay, this part of the story, he's just going to be talking. And so I'll just insert this in everywhere to kind of cut up and so animation, it's fun. It's a fun process. I actually like that. Speaking of animation, you should go watch my cartoon series, Awkward Ghost Moments. It's fun.
What was it called again?
Awkward Ghost Moments. I'll put a link in the description where you can click on it and watch all of them at
and you can
trashcanconductor.com.
And you can get the merch. Get a t-shirt with one of your favorite characters.
Yep.
So, yes, I thought that was a great education in terms of learning about film. But I did love photography. I didn't take it, I would say amateur photography. I ended up being better as an underwater photographer than what we would call a topside photographer, which is anything above the water. But what was the funniest thing is I was so connected to actual film, and I loved the whole process, especially underwater, because you get your film back and you request to have it in slides. Because usually, because you request to do it in slides, and then you're looking at one slide at a time on a light table with a magnifier, because the likelihood of you getting one good picture out of a roll is unlikely, because the ocean is lit.
Bunch of underwater photos at my parents' house from the 90s. They
Hmm.
were actually from you probably remember these. Like they actually had disposable underwater
Oh
cameras,
yeah. Hmm.
like in
Hmm.
the plastic casing.
Yeah.
And so I would be interesting to
Yeah.
see some
And
of those
then,
old pictures if because I don't remember any of them actually being good, but it would be
but it was
yeah
what was happening, of course, as digital was getting, because there was a time, I think it was in the early 2000s, where digital had not yet met or surpassed film clarity.
right.
And so we were still using film underwater. But man, when it surpassed film, you had to get a whole new system, of course. But that's when I got my first um, DSLR. Was when, and plus at the same time, because so many people were going digital for underwater, the I used to buy cases of film for like $2 a roll, and then all of a sudden they became $20 a roll because
Right.
no more demand. So so that and it took me a little while to transition because it's a whole new thing getting used to digital camera. Now, of course, I love it. Now I need to upgrade my DSLR, but it's yeah, it it's knowing the process of how it works. I'm always still amazed because photography has been around forever. Just amazed at how it works. Always. Just the whole process, and then the fact that the level of camera is so good within our cell phones that are
Oh
just,
yeah,
yeah,
you
so that
can.
technology is amazing, the digital technology.
Yeah, some cell phone cameras are better than a lot of or as good as a lot of
Well,
actual
right, so I'm
cameras.
on just my laptop for Zoom, but my iPad and my iPhone cameras are much clearer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
so it's me, I that's what
yeah, I
I'm
bought
frustrated, yeah.
a little 1080p webcam
Hmm.
that I
And
use like
I'm trying to hook up my DSLR to see if it works, because was one of the first DSLR that offered the movie or the video part.
mhm.
And so I'm still working on that because I honestly, it looks like I'm just going to need an entire new CPU because I'm just running out of what this computer can do in terms of plugins to have the whole setup. But
Yeah, to
anyway,
be able to
yeah.
have the RAM to handle the
Yes, and then I'm limited on, like, I had one easy way is to set my iPad up as my camera and then have it connect to but I have to order a adapter, a USB adapter.
okay.
Anyway, it's no big deal. I'm sorry, it's the film adapter to the USB, because I have it for my original iPod, but the connection's completely different now for the newer iPad. Anywho, just technical stuff. But it is amazing the iPad and the iPhone's the camera ability
Right.
compared to the generic. I'm not complaining because I'm not Spielberg here, but it's something I would I want to have it so it's not so fuzzy. I'm just a better picture, but it's all good. Yes.
You'll
So
get
what else
there.
is new with? Thank you. Thanks for the encouragement. What else is new with you, Ryan?
Just working and trying to plot an exit from California. And so yeah, hopefully that'll happen soon. The it's oh my god, like they don't want you to leave here. It like for me to be able to move out of the state is going to cost so much damn money. Like cuz no they don't let rental vehicles go anymore. So they're like cuz nobody's moving into California, everybody's
It's
leaving.
amazing. It's
And
amazing.
so they're yeah, so it's ridiculous. Like
I I wonder if someone was smart and could you rent, if you do like a co-op, you could say, how many people are going to this? This is a business idea. How many people are going to this state or this area? And then hire a trucker who is an independent, because there's a lot of independent truckers out there that have their own business. And then you say, we got 3 people moving to Florida from California, or 3 people moving from Arizona, load up the truck and then follow the truck. You know what I mean? It's like a co-op, like saying,
yeah,
a bunch of us. I would think that it would be a lucrative idea for the truck driver.
yeah. There are some. I wonder, because Google has been noticing that I've been looking at those things. So the ads that pop up on Facebook and Twitter and all that. I have actually seen a tractor trailer truck advert. So I'm wondering if that's kind of what they do. Well, they'll like move you cross country, and so that I didn't look too much into it.
Because some of these moving companies, they're not always going to do a trek just from one place to the other. They're probably picking up other people's stuff.
Right.
And then they fill it in because you may not, but I just had I've got it twice. That the other thing is the pod thing. And so 2 people, one who moved from California to Nevada, one who moved from Arizona to Florida, they both did the pod where you put everything in a pod and then someone comes, picks up the pod and you get it within a couple of weeks. And then they just drove to their destination.
I'm actually looking at shipping my car.
Yeah. Are you going to get it just fly?
Yeah, like loading it up or rent a smaller vehicle, like a minivan or something instead of like a moving truck.
Why don't you just sell your car and just buy another one there? Because they
to use it as storage. I would load my car up and send it, and then put the rest in a van. And drive that down.
Oh, because you don't want the wear and tear in your car? Or you just don't want to drive that far?
No, my car's not going to fit anything in it. Like anything of substance.
I see. I get it.
But there are a lot of things that I can fit in it. So that way I don't have to pay. I could rent a minivan or a van cheaper than I could rent a U-Haul, a U-Haul for that goes that distance, because they don't let moving trucks leave.
It'll be interesting. I bet there are people who, like you said, coming up on Google, that are really creative, because the whole idea is my brother used to be a truck driver, and now he works for a truck driving company, dispatching, and that's what he solves puzzles all day long because the idea is get as much cargo as you can from point A to point B. So if in between someone's like, yeah, we got a call here. It's like, okay, guy, don't go to B yet. Go to A.5, pick that load up because that's going to go to C kind of thing. And so I bet there's something because everybody knows U-Haul. There's other moving companies, but it's interesting just because of those of us in California, we hear it all the time. And then this year with the census saying we had actually 200,000 people less in their history, because there's always people coming and going, but this time the going exceeded the moving in, and not surprising, especially the age group, because it's either young people in their early 20s or the olds.
It's pushed out the entire working class.
Right.
The whole middle class has been pushed out. So it's the incredibly wealthy and the incredibly poor here. Mm-hmm. And if you fit anywhere in between there, it's just it's not
it just depends,
fun
right?
or comfortable. Right. I'm at the point in getting to the age where I'm I want I can get a 2-bedroom house for what I'm paying for in Florida for the studio apartment that I'm in right now in LA. Less than, actually. I can get a 2-bedroom house in Florida for less than what I'm paying for my studio apartment out here. Like it's
And very very
like it's
quietly last week
disgusting.
the governor, right? The
Not my
governor,
apartment, but it's disgusting that that's all I can
mhm.
afford out here.
But last week the governor signed legislation that all these homes that were scheduled to be developed as single family homes could now be zoned as multiple dwellings.
Jesus.
So, which means is, of course, instead of one home, they're going to put up a series of condos or apartments. But then it's going to make the demand for a single family home even higher. So
Yeah.
right. And so
It's
that's the thing is like, so if you don't own a home, you probably won't be able to afford it unless you're uber rich. And then again, those of us who are older who bought a home in the early 90s, there's nowhere to go except out,
yeah,
because
most houses
you buy
around
your
here
house for
start at like 1 million.
right, right. Well, when they said the medium price is now 800,000, and we know how big this state is, and there's some really, 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 um, so that means that there's, well, like in the Bay Area, if you a little under 20 years ago, you buy a home for 165,000, and then 20 years later, now it's valued at 950,000,
Mm-hmm.
which means these, older homes built in the 60s, the big draw is the big front yard and the big backyard and the wide sides. But then you go $1 million, that's a
That's a
ridiculous,
regular house out.
that's right. That's what I'm
Like
saying is that a
like
regular,
nothing fancy. You're talking about like 3 bedroom, two and a
right.
half bath
And
with a with a garage and a front
and
yard. Like
right,
those start at around $1 million. I mean, give or take a couple hundred, like maybe 800,000. You'll be
right.
lucky to find one for 7 that's decent. But like even in not great neighborhoods, you're looking at 500,000-600,000 for
Right.
like lots.
Well,
And
and the sad part, because the demand is so high, is a couple weeks ago they said that in the valley, where I
your
live, there's
valley
three
or my
towns.
valley?
My valley, where I
Okay,
live, um,
because technically live in the valley too.
home offers are 30 to 40% higher than asking price right now. 30 to 40% more than what you're putting on the market for. So people are just coming and cashing out because, like you say, there's a part of the Bay Area that has beyond rich people. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay. I'll be clear. I mean, not just beyond. We have beyond wealth, but then lot of tech people that make three, four, $500,000 a year. They can't buy a $5 million home, but they easily could buy $1 million home. But again, like you said, my house is a regular house built in a time, it was built in the late 60s, where homes weren't these palatial places. They, like, the bedrooms were for sleeping, the bathrooms were for, showering and going to the
Bathrooming.
bathroom. Right. And so everything, and then when you walked in the house, you have a front room, and then you have a little dining area with a kitchen. Then you have a family room. And so that's almost how all the homes are, whether it's 3 bedroom, 5 bedroom, 4 bedroom, there are all the bedrooms are small. So it's like, it's a regular older home. And it just makes me crazy because I'm thinking, a person now, you're going like, well, great, you have all this equity, but I can't buy my house. Why would I want $1 million mortgage?
Right.
Right. And then, so what it says is that, okay, but if you want to
You will
stay in
own nothing and
California,
like it.
right. But if you want to stay, I just think it's ridiculous to go, for the middle class to say, my choices are to move way, way, way up north where it's cheaper, or to leave the state. So yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. I tease a lot, but I've been very blessed to have visited almost every state in the United States, and they're all beautiful, and everybody's got a small
They're
town
all
USA.
precious in their own way.
Well, but those of us who lived in the Bay Area, especially I'll say Northern California, Southern California, parts of it too, but The state
Oh,
is
it's
really, it's a
gorgeous down
beautiful,
here.
beautiful state. Beautiful
The
state. And if you want the beaches where you can swim, that's Southern California,
like
but
it
all
is
up the coast,
absolutely beautiful down here. Like
right? And my town, it's like I said, between Napa with the wineries, my town with the wineries, um, but it was all built, and that's where my parents came out to California in the late 50s, early 60s, was to California was a land of opportunity, and you can get away from the snow. And so all of it, so the part of it is a lot of the low growth or slow growth that towns and counties had was we want to protect the beauty of California and at the same time attract a gazillion people, which is awesome because the state is so big and you think 40 million people, it, with the exception of if you're on the LA freeways, you think they're all out at one
oh,
time.
there's too
But
many people out here. Like I'm gladly going to make it less people
right.
here. I would like to come back and visit, like, but I think
Yeah.
that's more of a relationship that I want to have with LA is
Right.
just coming back to visit.
And to
Cause
see and go outside of the freeways because right off the
yeah.
freeways, it's not the same because you get off and you go a little bit off the freeways and you'll
Oh my
see
God,
small,
my apartment is on a main street out
mm-hmm.
here. It is in the mornings. It is a fucking nightmare getting out of
It's
my
got to be.
driveway.
I bet.
Like there will be times where it'll be almost 2 minutes before like literally me sitting in the edge of my driveway with the blinker on, about 2 maybe 3 minutes sometimes before
Right.
anybody will let me out, like just bumper to like twice a day. Right in
And
front of
yeah,
my,
and that right. And just for
it's
the scale of that, right. My town has one main street and it's got a what we call Second Street. That's where all the commerce is. And then there's stores throughout the town, but mainly it's down on Main Street. And so there's no big main road like it's all businesses on Main Street. So
Yeah. I've
off
got
the side, it's like right, yeah,
freeway
right,
entrances and
yes,
exits like a couple blocks from my apartment. And
right,
so it's everybody trying to get on the like the 405 or
right.
and
210.
the
There's
210. Like
yeah,
it's everybody,
79
yeah,
nightmare.
and so it's and where they're at, they're very popular entrances like for the freeway,
Sure.
like because there are some that are more popular, and so yeah, that's where I'm
Yeah.
like I'm not going to be that specific. I don't want any of the 4 people
Right.
listening to find me. uh
But if you right, but that's the thing that is that especially uh, you know large groups like LA, there's so much going on in that one county
it's
that
so
has
many
11
people.
million people, right? That it's like a city into, I mean, a state unto itself. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's a whole different way of life, and that's
they
the
should have
biggest
stopped
difference.
letting
Yeah,
they should put a cap on the population here.
but they right. So
I'll leave.
it's just an interesting time, and either it all breaks and the economy fails, and it rights itself
It's
because
yeah,
right.
there
So
is. I want to get out of here before that happens.
yeah, so
It's
yeah, but
because it will
and
be
yeah,
rough. Yeah, with the amount of
it'll be rough. And the only thing is that, and that's my final thing is, what's unsettling is it my young adult daughter can't buy a home,
yeah.
right? And so it's just that is that so that it's like I feel like my generation was the last ones who
Yeah.
could say, yeah, I'm young,
I'm
getting
never going to get my
started,
student loans
right?
paid off. Like, how the hell am I
Right.
supposed to buy a home and I'm going to be like
Well,
paying
that's
off
been the right, and that's
student
been
loans for the rest of my life?
right is kind of like selling that everybody should get a college degree, and all of a sudden you're
Worst
22 and
mistake
you
I ever
owe
made.
right, you got 100,000,
Continued
200,000,
education.
right,
It sometimes it works out for people, but for most people it doesn't, and it's a complete waste of time. And I regret ever listening to anybody that told me I needed to go to college. It was the worst
well,
mistake of my life.
And there's, yeah,
Not the worst. I mean, I'm sure I've done like, but
the only, right. Right. The thing is that
yeah,
it seemed, well, now looking back, too good to be true that because it was built up and it was built up into a lot of companies too, is that you can't move up without a college degree. Don't apply if you don't have a college degree. And so then so the message came through is I have to go to college to make more money.
yeah,
What people didn't realize is college was going to cost you a couple $100,000 and you wouldn't feel it because we were
and
backing these
you
loans
can't get rid of that debt, like even with
ever.
bankruptcy. Like,
Right.
'cause
Yeah.
I
So,
filed
right.
for
So,
bankruptcy, and I still have my
not
college.
right.
I still have my
Right.
student loans.
Not to be political, but it was the Sally Mae and Fannie Mae issues, and the government um, took over with agreeing and then and supplying that unlimited amount of college loans.
Yep.
And then they're the ones, and then the Congress said, you know what, even if you struggle, you can't file bankruptcy to get a break. You're always going to have these. So I can see why young people are disenchanted with because now the market uh, demand for a college degree, it doesn't mean anything anymore. Is that
Yep.
so? Okay, so but I have just a basic liberal arts degree. That's all I really needed. It's like, no, but then what about specialty? What about this? Because the pool, right? Is that
Drop
so?
out
So
of
yeah,
school,
so
kids.
yeah, go, yeah,
drop
so
out of
go and
drop out of school, kids. To chase something meaningful. Like
yeah, until
find
right,
something that means something to you, and go for that. Stay away from it.
right. Well,
Like,
I do think too, right, is that this is where
I
whether
don't know if
it's
that's good
some,
or
yeah,
bad advice.
I just know that. So my parents, just because of my order in the world, pretty much ignored me. So I was off just doing my own thing. And so I got a lot of messages and support from people around me, mentors, whether it's teachers, because my parents were like, we're not going to pay for anybody to go to college and you do anything on your own. And so, but I can look at me putting myself out there, working, going to school, and then, but twofold. One is a lot of technical stuff. That's what you're learning in school, but the living part of putting some of that stuff into play, so it's that whole, there's so much, so both sides, it's like people who are college educated, really what it means to me is they were able to memorize a tremendous amount of information and they're able, and they've learned a lot of different skills. Then it's that putting it in place. So taking those skills and getting it into the outer world, which is beneficial. But I think both sides are right. Somebody who is, scrappy but a hard worker and can put puzzles together, which could apply to almost any industry. That person too can come in, and that's the drag with the whole messaging from above saying college degree is going to get you further. Is that people? I say stop listening to that. Like you said, do what you love, because that's what happens when you get older. You realize I wasted all that time chasing somebody else's idea of what I should be. But if you're young and you listen, do what we're doing. Get on a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Try to be
Just
popular. Try to get subscribers. We haven't worked that out yet, but we'll get there someday.
Yep.
Right, Ryan?
Got to.
How are we doing on time?
We are a go.
Are we at
Yeah.
an hour
Stay
ago?
out of school, kids. That's
Status.
Stay out of school, kids.
There's a lot. There's a lot, but and
I
the
mean, that's not to say like some vocational training might not be like, if I liked doing hair, that wouldn't have been a waste of time. But like,
right. And but so the only thing is that there's a benefit to the education, and if you have the flexibility to be able to say, I know what I want to do. When you think you know what you want to do when you're 17, 18, and then you go, wait, I have to declare, and I don't think what I thought I wanted to do. is just be open and brave and explore it, because you don't know what the future will go. All the way back to the cartoonists. They couldn't know 80 years ago what the future was. You can't know at 17 or 18. But if you're going to college, just realize, there's a lot of different ways. If you're going to go to college and save money, do really well in high school, apply for every scholarship and grant you can, and then work on campus if you go to school. I just think that it benefits on both sides, with the exception if you go to school just to be an activist, because some people are like that now. That it's like their whole education, it's like they may have an education, but really what their thing is that is they just want to be political, which is fine. But there's other degrees besides that. But
all right. Until next time.
Until next time. Bye. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
Have a great Sunday. Ryan's going back to bed.